Welcome to day 3 of the 12 days of Christmas. I am so glad that you are returning. I have been having so much fun and enjoying what Rosa, Robyn, and Debbie have created. It's so much fun coming back each day to see what they have done. And I have created 2 memory dex cards as well as a holder. And I did do this if you followed our Halloween series. I did the same thing, and this time I am showing you how to make the box as well as the memory dex cards. This is also a design team project for ASC Craft Supplies. You can find them at 2 online stores. And remember to use my coupon code Michelle10 for 10% off your order. And any order $75 or more, you do receive free shipping, which I love free shipping. I think that's a great deal. As you can see, I have this really pretty poinsettia on the front as well as these holly leaves, and I did pick these up at Hobby Lobby probably last year. And this is a little chipboard piece that I've added to the front, and it does say believe in the magic of Christmas. And I have a doily underneath all of that and snow globe in the background. And I chose not to put the little wooden dowels because when I receive memory dex cards, sometimes the holes don't always line up, so I chose not to use those. But once I put a couple more in there, they won't slide down. And this paper is so cute, and it has the elf on the shelf as well as the nutcracker and this really pretty turquoise color that I love. And on the back, I cut out a piece of the paper that made the elf on the shelf front and center. I think it's so cute and so fun and festive. And then on the side here, we have an antique jar with the ornaments as well as the pretty gift bag here with some ornaments. And the first memory dex card that I created is this 3D Christmas tree. I will provide you with the SVG for this tree, but you could use any Christmas tree. What I did to achieve this look is I cut the tree out 5 times, ran it through my embossing folder, and then scored it down the middle and just folded it over and glued the halves together and did that till I got half of a tree. So we'll go like that. But I love how this came out, and then I used the ephemera from the Minay Merry and Bright paper collection to decorate my tree with, as well as some stickles. And I did reduce the ephemera by quite a bit to get it to fit on this tree. I have the nutcracker, the rocking horse, the little train, a gift bag, a couple gift bags, and you can see the ornaments. And I did the elf on the shelf even. I shrunk him down and then just used a red and white twine bow at the top. I did use a snow pin. And what you do is you just draw it on and then take your heat gun and it puffs it up. So I love that look, and I love how that came out. And then on the back, I just used like the burlap paper for the back of that. And for the second one, I created this snow globe. And I cut out the tree, as you can see, and have just put in a sequin mix. I think I picked up at Joann's last year. And I just love the top of the tree, and I love the string lights that they have. And I do believe the snow globe is from Cricut Access, and I did cut out 2020 and put on there. And I have a really pretty seam binding bow just to finish it off. So I love how that came out, and I love the sound of a shaker. And on the back, we have this really pretty floral paper with the holly and the poinsettias. And then on the inside, I chose to do it all the same. And I love that they used this aqua color for the complementary color on their papers. So it's really pretty. So that was on the inside. And then our memory dex cards just go in like so. Brought in my memory dex base, and I am using a snow globe from Cricut Design Space, but any snow globe is going to work. It measures 4.124 on the width, and it is 4.844 in the height. And the memory dex base is 4 by 2.686, and I have brought in another circle that is 3.65. So let's work on our snow globe first. And this black border, we do not need it, so I'm going to highlight it and then delete it. And I do not need this dark gray overlay because I don't need this in the shaker. So I'm going to highlight it over here on the right and delete it.
And now we will ungroup the snow globe. And I want to work with this. Whoops. Because these pieces will stay the same, so I don't need those. But we will need to work with this. So I'm going to duplicate it. And we need to bring this to the front. We need to put our hole in the middle so we can make it a shaker. So I'm just going to eyeball this, and that looks pretty even. And then I'm going to highlight the circle in the snow globe base, and I'm going to align them just horizontally. And that looks good. And I'm going to come down. They're both highlighted still, and I'm going to slice it. And this will give us our cutout. To make our shaker, we are going to need to cut this out anywhere from 6 to 8 times, depending on the thickness of your paper. You just want to make sure you have a deep enough well for your sequin mix to move. So let's duplicate it to make 8 gray ones. 4, 5, 8. And then we will need one more for the decorative paper to go over top of the snow globe. Let me make that a different color. Okay. And then we're going to need one of these, another one of these to cut out our acetate to hold our sequin mixture in. So I'm just going to line these up so I make sure. Okay, so we've got our decorative paper, and then we have our acetate sheets, and then we have our pieces to make the shaker. We will need another piece of decorative paper to go in the back of the snow globe. So let's change that color. And I'm just lining these up to make sure I have all of my correct pieces. And so now we can attach this piece to our memory deck base. What I'm going to do with the memory deck base is, let's bring in a square, and I want to leave just an inch of the memory deck space, so that will leave our holes on the bottom. And in Cricut, it's slice that allows you to manipulate images. So I don't need these pieces. And we will bring this over. I'm going to send the memory deck piece to the back, and I just want to bring that down a little bit on the base. And I'm going to highlight both pieces and align it and center horizontally. Then the snow globe is centered in the memory deck base. And we will weld those together. And so now this will be the decorative piece that will go behind the snow globe, because you'll want decorative paper on the bottom part of the snow globe. And then you will need to glue 2 pieces of cardstock together so it will be sturdy. And let's change the color of those. And then we will need one more piece of decorative paper to go on the back. Here are the pieces of the snow globe that I have cut out. So this is the little bottom decorative pieces for it. And the decorative piece for the front are acetate, and I had to do 8 pieces of cardstock because I did not have any 110 pound that matched this paper. So I have 8 of those. If you have 110 pound, I'd say you could get by with 6. And of course, if you like to use foam, you could cut it with your maker. And I think the Silhouette 4, if you have it, I think they do cut foam. And then this is the decorative piece you'll see from the snow globe, and this is my decorative that covers the base. And as I said earlier, I'm using 2 of these since I didn't have 110 pound in this red. And this is the back of my snow globe MDC. So we will just start by gluing pieces together. To go ahead and glue the front piece to the acetate. And I'm going to try to be very careful so I do not have glue ooze onto my acetate, and that is sometimes easier said than done. Just going to take my finger and kind of smooth it out around the edge. And I have and then of course this is going to be hard to see since it is acetate. I'll line the bottom part up first. Just be very careful and go around that edge. And that came out really well. Whoops, slide it over a little bit. Just making sure the edges meet. Okay, and that looks really good. And I do have just a little spot of glue right there, so I'll just wipe it off. And this is just a baby wipe. I always craft with those. They come in handy. I'm going to go ahead and glue the decorative pieces to the front of this. And I did ink my edges with red to match the cardstock. Good. And then this piece goes some pop dots on this gold piece. That's the gold piece on. So now I'm going to glue all of these together. Are all glued together. Now I'm going to glue these pieces together, and I've got my decorative piece, and I am using 2 solid cardstock since my 110 pound I didn't have any that matched. And then this is the decorative piece on the back. So this is the piece we will see through our snow globe. So I'm going to glue it down. Now I'm going to glue my pieces to form my shaker well onto the base. Okay, so I have this sequin mix. I think I got it last year from Joann's. So I'm just going to put a couple generous scoops here. I usually do too many, so I'm trying to make it where you can still see the tree. Let's see here, and yeah, that's perfect. Now I'm going to just kind of spread those out so when I go to glue it, they won't stick in between the pieces that I glue together. Here's our shaker. Okay, so I have given you the SVG file for the tree and the memory decks, and you can upload those to Cricut Design Space. And when you do, you will just need to make the memory decks card 4 inches wide by 2.687, and the Christmas tree is 4 inches wide by 4.674 tall. If you put the tree and memory decks card in silhouette, they will come in at the correct size. So in Cricut Design Space, I need to make my memory deck smaller by bringing in a square, and I'm just using my grid in the background, and I want to leave about 1 inch of the memory deck space. So we'll highlight both of those, slice it, and delete it because we don't need that anymore. Let's duplicate our tree. And I'm going to bring it over to the memory dex base and putting it where I like it. And I'm going to align those center horizontally, and then I'm going to weld it together. So that'll be our memory dex base. And I'm going to duplicate it. And since this will be the decorative paper for the front of the tree, and this will be for the, and this one will be for the back. And since this design is not the same on each side, we will need to flip this one horizontally. So then when we cut out our paper, it will lay correctly on the back of the memory dex card. And so this is the one that will be in the front, and I'm going to duplicate that 2 more times. And I'm going to make these 2 white. Oops, white, because that will be what we put in between to make our memory dex card sturdier. And you may just need 1 piece if you're using 110-pound cardstock. And if you're not using 110-pound cardstock, you'll probably need 2. And let's go ahead and make this one that's in the back that we flipped a different color as well. Now we can work on the pieces of tree that we fold in half. And let's put a score line in the middle of that tree. And let's make the score line the same height as a tree. And I do believe 4.674. So 4.674. I'm going to highlight both of those and align it center horizontally and align bottom, and then we will attach it. And we will need 5 of the trees. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 2 of the trees we will need to flip, so when we're putting the tree together, it lines up properly. So we'll flip horizontally. So I have cut out my 5 Christmas trees, as well as 2 decorative pieces for the front and the back. And I do have my 110-pound cardstock that I'm going to put in the middle. So the first thing I want to do is glue these 3 pieces together. Now we can take our Christmas trees, and I have scored mine down the middle where my score lines that I put when I cut it out. So what will happen is we're just going to lay this down, fold it over, and then we're going to glue this half to the tree. And where my tree is not symmetrical on each side, that is why I flipped a couple of the trees before I cut them out, so they will line up perfectly like so. So now I'm just going to go ahead, I think I'm going to go ahead and glue the trees together first, and then I'll glue it to the base. So I'm just going to go along making sure my halves are matched up and glue them together, and I'm going to do that for all of these. I did ink the edges of the tree. It's going to glue this to the base. I'm just making sure that it's going to line up, and it does. I'm just going to glue this down. I'm just going to run the bone folder along the very back piece just to make sure the tree adheres really well, and then I'm going to run the point of it along here as well just to get that center point glued in make sure it's touching, and that'll help it fold as well. Gives us our Christmas tree that we can now decorate. So the first few things that we are going to need are 2 pieces of chipboard that are 3 by 4. And what I did to get my angle is I just put a little line here at 1.5 inches. And then I just took my roller from the top on the 3-inch side and lined it up with my little mark here and drew a pencil line and then cut it in my paper trimmer so I could get the angles. So that's what I did to both sides. The back piece is 3 by 5 and the base is 4 by 5 and the front is 1.5 by 5. And we will need to adhere 2 pieces of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and we are going to wrap our base in this. Line this up along the edge. Score tape helps me make a nice straight seam. What we will do is lay our pieces out. So this is the base, this is the back, this is our front, and then these will be our sides. And I'm going to go ahead and just put it down the middle so my seam will be right in the middle of this and not be in any of the spaces. So I think that will work really well. And what I'm going to do now is glue all of these down. And for my spacing, I just want it 1 thickness of the chipboard. So when I'm lining it up, I'm just going to put this in the middle and I can push them together to make sure I have the proper spacing. And I am going to wrap all of the chipboard pieces in score tape so the edges grab really well. So I am using
I'm just cutting around where I have drawn the tabs, and now I'm cutting along the edge so we can wrap that to make a nice finished edge. And we want to miter our corners and make sure to leave a little piece so it looks finished. And I'm just cutting out the other tab.
Lining up the edges along the
and
side here.
I'm going to cut along this edge up against the chipboard. And don't go too close because we still want a little bit so we can make a nice finished edge or corner. And once again, I am just leaving a little piece for the corner. I know you're getting tired of me saying that. And just trim along the edge, and we're going to
do the same thing to this side.
Final tab and cut along the edge of the chipboard, leaving a little space, and
a little bit.
Cut this part at an angle, as you see, and then we will cut the final corner.
And what I'm going to do is I want to leave a section on every other side. This way I can wrap it around this section. And first person I think I ever saw do this. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut down through here. And on this one, we'll cut along to there, leave a little bit in the corner so we can make a pretty edge right there. And on this, do the same thing. And we may have to trim off a little bit more, but I'd rather do it this way than trim, have to go back and take some more off than do too much. have left enough to wrap our edges like so, and then we'll bring these up, and then these outside flaps will wrap around here. And I'm just going to go ahead and score these. Art glitter glue, and I'm going to wrap these over. It's like wrapping a mini album. And then you can see when I fold this down, we need to trim a piece of this off. So I'm going to trim a little bit off this. It's a little long. And miter the corner a little bit more. To trim this part off. I want to work on where I'm going to take that little piece that's overhanging and take my bone folder and just push it down. So when I wrap the edge, it'll make a nice edge. Bring that in. There's a little piece sticking out. We'll just trim it off. There we go. Didn't see it. Okay. Well, that looks good. And then we'll just wrap these around like so. Just making sure the corner looks nice at the bottom. That turned out really well. A nice sharp corner. Just fold this and check it. Make sure it looks good. We'll do the front. Make sure that looks good. And I'm going to fold that little piece in like we did the top right there. That looks good. And I'm just pushing it up against this back piece of chipboard. And we'll do the same thing to this side. That looks really nice. So now I'm going to cut paper to cover the inside. I have our hinges that go in the corner, and they are 1 inch by 8.5, and I have scored these down the middle at 1/2 inch, and we're going to put them in all the corners as well as where the bottom piece joins the sides, and it'll give us a nice finished look. And I have cut out our pieces that go on the inside, and they're just a little bit smaller than the chipboard pieces. So we have 2 pieces for the sides that are 2 7/8 by 3 7/8, and how I will get my angle is I'm just going to trace along the side. And then the front piece is 1 3/8 by 4 7/8. The back piece is 2 7/8 by 4 7/8, and the bottom piece is 3 7/8 by 5 7/8. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and put our bottom pieces in, and so that's 5 inches, and I'm just going to use my mat here and cut this at 5, and I do like to miter my corners. That way the corners won't become as bulky. So I'm just going to lay that in there. And I need to trim just a little bit more off. It's a little bit smaller. We'll just dry fit, and we'll do the side pieces. They're 4 inches, so I'll just come over here and use my mat. And we'll cut just a little smaller than 4 inches and miter my corners. And make sure that fits in there. That one fits good. So I'm just going a little bit smaller than 4 inches. And that fits in there really nice. A little bit smaller than the 5 inches. There we go. Okay, then that one. I'm just going to glue all of these down in the bottom of our box. Now we're going to cut our corner strips, and it is 3 inches, so I'm going just a little bit under 3 inches. I'll go ahead and cut 2 of those, and miter. And the front pieces are 1.5 inches, so a little bit smaller. I'm just going to glue these pieces in. Going to glue our pieces inside the box, and it just makes such a nice look when you cover all of the seams. And for the sides, just going to center it and lay it down, and then grab a pencil and just draw along that edge. And just trim it with scissors so it fits on this side, and it also fits on this side. And I'm just going to trace it on my other piece of paper. I'm just going to hold those two together and trace and draw a line, and then I'll cut this. I'm going to glue the 2 side pieces on. For the back piece, it is 2 7/8 by 4 7/8. The front piece here is 1 3/8 by 4 7/8. The side pieces are 2 7/8 by 3 7/8. Those are the outside pieces, and then for the inside pieces, I chose just to use all of the same paper. The bottom piece is 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. The side pieces are 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and that's the tallest point. And when you're putting the angle on your side pieces on the inside, since it's decorative paper, you want to have the matching sides together so they will go in your box accordingly. And the back piece is 2 3/4 by 4 3/4, and the front piece is 1 3/8 by 4 3/4. So I'm just going to glue all of these pieces in. Have all of the paper glued to my box.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed the tutorial for today. If you have any questions, just make sure to put them in the comment section below. Make sure to check out Rosa, Robyn, and Debbie's videos today to see what they have come up with for day 3. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye-bye.